Hello and welcome to a new episode of the EnergyTalks Podcast. I'm Lillian Wagner, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most dynamic and fast-evolving energy markets in Europe, the United Kingdom. To help us dive deeper, I'm here with Mark Rose, Sales and Marketing Director for all B2B sectors in the UK at TotalEnergies Gas and Power. And today he's going to share with me all he knows about the UK energy market and its dynamic. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So Mark, if you're okay with it, I'd like our listeners to get to know you a little bit better. What's your background?
Well, I started first of all, stepping into the energy industry back in 1993, a long, long time ago, where I took a job in a planning office working at a generation site for Scottish Hydroelectric, where the industry was very, very different. From there, I moved to the commercial office in the metropolis of Perth, in central Scotland, where I took up an administration role in a mailroom, in fact, and spent my time at 19 years old going around the building delivering the post. But the plus side of that is I really got to understand all the elements of the commercial operation of the business, which gave me great insight into what a supply business was all about. On the back of that, I moved into marketing. I had 4 years in B2B marketing, where I was supporting the sales teams, and in a market, as we'll come on to talk about, was changing fast, and customers started to have a choice about where they procured their electricity.
So you've been in this business for a while. You know the energy markets.
Yes, possibly too long, but I thoroughly enjoy it. I find it a very interesting segment, and it has never stood still.
So that's clearly a big shift. Can you tell me what have been the key drivers behind this transformation?
So it's interesting. Decarbonisation has been a huge part of the drivers within the UK to decarbonise our generation fleet. As the carbon content of coal is so vast, there's been a drive to reduce the amount of coal-fired generation that we rely on as we increase the renewable share. How have we done that? With the introduction of subsidies via the Renewable Obligation Scheme, which I mentioned, support the bigger generation, the feed-in tariff to support smaller generation, really created a surge in renewable electricity generation. And over time, that has progressed quite significantly, and obviously has seen a big reduction in the carbon content of our electricity mix in the UK market.
Yeah. How do renewables play a role in that?
So renewables will continue to play a role, and a much larger role if the government is to achieve the targets that we've set out. Currently, we have about 50% of our generation from renewables, but to continue to grow that, you're looking for 2 to 3 times as much offshore wind than we currently have, for example, which again is exciting for the renewable market.
So when it comes to innovation and solutions for the future of energy markets, we hear a lot about CCS, especially when it comes to the UK. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Are we involved in projects like that?
Yeah, there's a partnership, in fact, called the Northern Endurance Partnership in Teesside in the northeast of England, where we are partnering, TotalEnergies are partnering with BP and Equinox to create a facility that has the potential to store up to 450 million tonnes of CO2.
If you don't mind, let's take a moment and turn to TotalEnergies. How is TotalEnergies positioning itself in an ever-evolving market?
I think what's exciting to be part of TotalEnergies is there's been a huge evolution in the business and how we educate our staff, over 100,000 staff globally, on what our business wants to be in the future. This has included training for all staff to understand electricity and renewable markets better than ever before. We continue to invest heavily. I think $16 to $18 billion per year between now and 2030 will be investing, of which $5 billion will be purely on clean energies. That's really exciting. That's a strategy that we've stuck with for a number of years now. So continue to develop what is currently, I think we have 35 gigawatts of installed renewable capacity, with the ambition to get that to 100 gigawatts by 2030, which will really show our evolution and our path in a strong direction with regard to supporting what will be future energies for our world.
If we're looking at wide picture, what is going to be the future of the energy markets?
It's a balance, isn't it, of decarbonisation, affordability, and customer solution that works for everyone. And what I mean by that is something that can be delivered by us, the supplier, but it's something that customers respect and value.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time. Decarbonisation comes at a cost. It has to be affordable, but there has to be solutions in the market for customers to be able to build resilience in their businesses.
And what's TotalEnergies' role in all of this?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're the biggest, or arguably the biggest supplier to British business by volume. I think we want to continue to maintain our position, but operational excellence, moving with digitalization, providing customer better insight, being agile, being flexible where we're able to be, and providing the right products for customers so they can achieve their net zero goals through their electricity contract is exceptionally important to us.
As we look to the future, what's on your mind about the UK energy industry?
If you look at the industry at a very high level, at a strategic level, there are a few things going on. One is demand is going to increase. You would expect demand to increase as we decarbonise our heating, as we increase the electrification of our fleets. But we also must deliver ongoing emissions reduction, which is obviously a challenge and with growing demand. And we must be wary of geopolitical uncertainties that exist in our world today. And how do we as an industry ensure that we're resilient against that, as well as us as a supplier and customers for their own businesses? For the UK, obviously we're focused on, as I've mentioned, operational excellence, sustainability leadership, and customer-centric solutions. That means reliable supply, smart metering and analytics, flexible contracts, and above all, transparent contracting and relationships with not only, as I mentioned, our customers, but also with our partners that are in the market, supporting our customers and ensuring that the right solutions are in the right place at the right time.
How has consumption evolved?
So there's been quite an evolution of that for various different reasons. So again, if we go back to 2004, the consumption in the UK was 340 terawatt hours. Today, it's 319 terawatt hours on using latest figures. Probably peaked in the late 2000s when, just before the financial crash, which drove increased energy costs and had a big impact on intensive energy users. But where it is likely to go is interesting, where we see increased electrification of heating as the country evolves away from gas heating to electric heating and heat pumps. If you build a new house in the UK today, you can't put a gas heating system in it. It must be a heat pump. If you consider electrification of our vehicle fleet and the goals that government have set, that will mean before long internal combustion engine vehicles will be a thing of the past, and we'll all be driving electric vehicles. That again, of course, will have a significant increase in the consumption of the UK. All of this additional demand at a time when we're trying to decarbonise what we do. So the evolution of our fuel mix is really important to ensure that although we might be generating and we might be using more, that we're not polluting anymore.
Of course. So what have you seen as the differences from when you first started the industry to, now?
My word, it's changed massively. When I first entered the industry back at Scottish Hydroelectric, back in 1993, you very much had many businesses, still regional electricity companies that were, in many cases, vertically integrated with generation, with distribution, with supply. Transmission networks were something the two Scottish businesses had, Scottish Hydroelectric and Scottish Power. But in the south, it was all National Grid, who now operate, although they don't own it all, they now operate the entire transmission system. And you had lots of different supply business, lots of smaller supply businesses. And over time, we've seen a significant number of mergers and acquisitions. Some businesses focused on, there's 14 distribution networks. I think they're operated by 7 businesses now. So there's been some consolidation there. Some businesses are still vertically integrated, that they have generation, they have supply, and they have distribution. But there are many businesses, some of our biggest supply businesses are purely focused on supply. And we have new entrants that have come in over the course of time. I think at its peak, there was over 70 suppliers in the domestic market. Now there's little over 20. That has seen massive change as the domestic market's evolved. And we probably have, there are a lot of registered business-to-business suppliers, but actually probably 14, 15 active players in that segment, many of which, again, are fairly new businesses. So it's changed massively.
Yeah, the whole landscape has changed.
We work with a lot of independent generators to take the offtake of their assets. Therefore, the number of generation businesses is huge in comparison to where it was back in the early 90s. The evolution of renewables has meant the establishment of lots of generation businesses.
Awesome. So you said it's a really exciting time. We also know that there's a lot when it comes to digitalization and innovation. Mm-hmm. How does that play into the UK's energy markets? And what are we kind of looking towards as an opportunity for these markets?
The issue for some businesses is they have to use the energy when they need to use the energy, and that might well be at peak time. So that makes it harder for them to be more efficient. But with that in mind, there are other things to consider, such as how do I create my own energy on the site, and how do I reduce my requirement from the national grid?
So with that said, what is the role of TotalEnergies in supporting the customers?
One of the big priorities for customers, as well as the UK as a whole, is obviously achieving our net zero targets by 2050. For customers, that often means having the right available type of energy for them, whether it's green energy or traceable green energy or corporate PPAs, to enable them to heat their net zero goals. And we're very committed to being the best supplier that we can be, evolving with technology, evolving with the right service levels for our clients. I think the other thing that is really important to us is the UK is very much, in many instances, a partner model. There's many third-party intermediaries that we support, both to small businesses to the very largest, and it's really important that we accommodate the requirements of the end customer as well as these partners, because circa 80% of businesses will choose a partner to help them in what has become really quite a complex market area.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Mark. I really appreciate it. And for our listeners, please stay tuned for future episodes of the Energy Talks podcast. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much.